You trusted them. You believed in their words, their promises, their loyalty. You thought they were different, that they would stand by you no matter what. But one day, without warning, they turned their back on you. Maybe it was a friend who abandoned you when you needed them most. Maybe it was a lover who promised forever but walked away without looking back. Maybe it was someone you helped, someone you sacrificed for, who repaid you with deception. And now, you're left with the same burning question: why? The truth is brutal but simple. People betray you because they were never truly loyal to you. They were only loyal to their needs, and the moment those needs changed, so did their loyalty. You were useful to them at one point, but once their priorities shifted, once their self-interest outweighed their connection to you, they made their choice. And their choice wasn't you. Stoicism teaches us that betrayal is not a mistake. It is a reflection of human nature. Expecting undying loyalty from others is like expecting the ocean to stay still. It is naive to believe that people will always stand by you just because you stood by them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How ridiculous and how strange to be surprised at anything which happens in life." Betrayal is not an exception. It is a rule of life. The sooner you accept this, the stronger you become. So, what now? You can let the betrayal consume you. Let it make you bitter. Let it turn you into a person who no longer trusts anyone. Or you can see it for what it really is. A lesson, a test of resilience. A chance to sharpen your mind, strengthen your discipline, and rise above those who prove themselves unworthy. In this video, we expose the harsh truth about betrayal and how a Stoic mindset helps you rise above it. Like this video, subscribe to Victory Stoic, and drop a comment below. What has betrayal taught you about human nature? Now let's begin. Number 1. People betray you because of their own dark nature. Betrayal isn't always about strategy, survival, or shifting priorities. Sometimes people betray you simply because it is in their nature to do so. There is a darkness in human nature that few want to acknowledge. A selfish, impulsive, and often destructive side that prioritizes personal gain over integrity. Some betray out of fear, some out of greed, and some betray simply because they can. Have you ever been blindsided by someone who had nothing to gain from hurting you? A friend who spread lies for no reason? A partner who cheated even when they had everything they wanted? A colleague who sabotaged you just to feel superior? These betrayals make no sense if you assume people are always rational. But they make perfect sense when you accept that some people are driven by something deeper, an inner darkness that they may not even be fully aware of. Psychologists have long studied why people betray those they care about, and while some do it for clear benefits, others do it because of internal weaknesses. Jealousy, insecurity, or the simple inability to resist temptation. A classic study in behavioral psychology revealed that when given power over others, many people will abuse it, even when there is no reward. The conclusion? For some, betrayal isn't a calculated move. It's an instinct. Think about someone who betrayed you. Did they really need to? Or was it something inside them that made them do it? Maybe it was the childhood friend who turned against you, not because you wronged them, but because your success reminded them of their own failures. Maybe it was the partner who lied to you, not because they didn't love you, but because they lacked the strength to resist their own selfish impulses. Maybe it was the coworker who stole your idea, not because they truly needed it, but because they couldn't stand seeing you win. This is why the Stoics teach us to expect betrayal, not as a rare tragedy, but as an inevitable part of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, 'Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness.'" He understood that human nature is flawed, and the sooner you accept this, the less power betrayal has over you. So how do you protect yourself? First, recognize that betrayal is not always personal. It is often a reflection of the betrayer's own internal struggle. Second, stop assuming people are always logical. Many act purely on their own weaknesses. Third, understand that true loyalty is rare. If you find it, treasure it, but never expect it. And finally, never let someone's darkness pull you into your own. If you let betrayal make you bitter, untrusting, or vengeful, then you have allowed their weakness to infect you. Your strength lies in your ability to move forward without losing yourself. The question is, Will you keep expecting loyalty from those who cannot even control themselves? Will you see the truth that betrayal reveals more about them than it does about you? Number 2. The betrayer always has a justification, at least in their own mind. No one wakes up in the morning and thinks, "Today, I will be a traitor." People don't see themselves as villains, they see themselves as justified. Every betrayer has a reason, at least in their own mind, that makes what they did seem logical, necessary, or even morally acceptable. A friend who stabs you in the back convinces himself that you deserved it. A partner who cheats tells themselves that they were unfulfilled. A business associate who undercuts you believes they had no choice. Betrayal doesn't come with guilt, it comes with self-rationalization. Take historical betrayals. Brutus, the man who helped assassinate Julius Caesar, didn't see himself as a backstabber. He believed he was saving Rome from a dictator. Judas, the most infamous betrayer in history, justified his actions as a means to push a greater cause. Even in personal relationships, you'll hear people say, "I had to do it," or "I didn't mean to hurt you," as if their betrayal was simply an unfortunate necessity. This happens because humans are wired to protect their self-image. Few can live with the thought that they did something truly wrong, so they twist the story until they are the victim, the hero, or the one who had no choice. A cheating spouse tells themselves that their partner neglected them. A friend who spreads lies justifies it as setting the record straight. A coworker who takes credit for your work convinces themselves that they deserved it more. They don't see what they did as betrayal. They see it as survival, fairness, or even justice. Stoicism teaches us not to be surprised by this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Understanding that most people will rationalize their betrayal helps you detach from the pain. Instead of being shocked or taking it personally, you see it for what it is, a flawed individual protecting their ego at your expense. So, how do you deal with this truth? First, stop expecting people to admit their betrayal. They rarely will, because in their mind, they did nothing wrong. Second, understand that arguing with them is pointless. You cannot convince someone that they are the villain of their own story. Third, recognize that if someone betrays once and justifies it, they will likely do it again. Trust actions, not apologies. The question is, are you still waiting for an apology that will never come? Or will you accept that some people will always rewrite the story to protect their conscience? Number 3, people hate you because you have what they don't. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. It often comes from those who once stood beside you. Friends, colleagues, even family members can turn against you, not because you wronged them, but because your success, your happiness, or even your confidence reminds them of what they lack. Take friendships. You start off on equal ground, two people growing together, sharing experiences, supporting each other. But then something shifts. Maybe you begin to succeed in your career, or your personal life improves, or you develop a sense of self-assurance that they never had. At first, they celebrate with you, but deep down, resentment starts to creep in. Your progress becomes a mirror reflecting their stagnation, and instead of being inspired, they begin to resent you. They may not even recognize it at first, but the passive-aggressive comments, the subtle distance, the lack of genuine excitement for your achievements, these are all signs that jealousy is turning into bitterness. Now let's look at the workplace. You and a colleague start at the same level, facing the same challenges. But over time, you develop new skills, take on bigger responsibilities, and earn recognition. Instead of seeing your success as something to learn from, they see it as a threat. Why them and not me? This question fuels envy, and envy leads to betrayal. Maybe they start gossiping about you, trying to undermine your reputation. Maybe they sabotage your work, making it harder for you to succeed. Maybe they simply turn cold, pretending they don't notice your achievements, refusing to acknowledge your growth. They don't hate you because of who you are. They hate you because of what you represent. This is why Stoicism teaches us not to expect unwavering loyalty from those around us. Epictetus said, "A jealous man poisons his own banquet and then blames others for the taste." People who betray out of envy rarely admit it to themselves. Instead, they convince themselves that you changed, that you became arrogant, that you no longer deserve their support. They justify their resentment rather than confront their own failures. How do you deal with this? First, understand that it is not your responsibility to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Never apologize for your progress. Second, recognize that some friendships and alliances will naturally fade when you evolve. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. And third, do not waste energy trying to prove your worth to those who have already decided to resent you. True friends celebrate your success, not secretly wish for your failure. The question is, are you holding on to people who can't handle your growth? Or are you willing to let them go and surround yourself with those who push you forward? Number 4. Some people betray you to regain control over you. Betrayal isn't always about jealousy or self-interest. Sometimes it's about control. There are people who need to feel dominant in relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional. As long as they have power over you, they feel secure. But the moment they sense you slipping away, becoming independent, or no longer needing them, they will betray you just to re-establish control. A prime example of this is the narcissistic partner. At the beginning of a relationship, they shower you with attention, praise, and affection, making you feel like the center of their world. But over time, they start testing your limits, criticizing you subtly, making you doubt yourself, isolating you from others. Why? Because their power over you comes from your dependence on their validation. Now imagine this. One day, you stop seeking their approval. You regain confidence, set boundaries, and start prioritizing yourself. To most people, this would be a positive change, but to a narcissist, this is a threat. They don't want a partner, they want a subject. And when they realize they can no longer control you, they will betray you before you can walk away from them. How does this betrayal look? Maybe they suddenly pull away and start acting cold to make you chase them again. Maybe they cheat on you, not because they truly desire someone else, but because they want to break your confidence and remind you that you are not in control. Maybe they create drama, spread rumors, or manipulate situations just to make you feel unstable. Their goal isn't just to hurt you, it's to make you feel powerless again. This doesn't just happen in romantic relationships, it happens in friendships and workplaces too. Have you ever had a friend who was supportive as long as you were beneath them, but the moment you started growing, they turned against you? Have you ever had a boss who was friendly when you were struggling, but suddenly became hostile when you started excelling? These people don't want to see you independent. They want to see you under their influence. Stoicism teaches us that control over others is an illusion, and control over yourself is the only thing that matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you recognize that some people betray not because of who you are, but because of what they fear losing, you stop taking betrayal personally. You start seeing it as their weakness, not yours. So how do you deal with this? First, never give power to those who thrive on controlling you. The moment you sense manipulation, step back and observe instead of reacting emotionally. Second, do not seek revenge. Nothing angers a controlling person more than your indifference. Third, choose your relationships wisely. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, not those who want to keep you small. The question is, are you being betrayed by someone who can't handle your strength? Or are you strong enough to walk away before they have the chance? Number 5, the betrayer rarely thinks they did anything wrong. One of the most frustrating aspects of betrayal is realizing that the person who wronged you doesn't even feel guilty. You might expect remorse, regret, or at least some level of acknowledgement, but often it never comes. Why? Because in their mind, they didn't do anything wrong. People who betray you don't wake up and think, "I'm going to be a terrible person today." Instead, they create narratives that justify their actions. They convince themselves that their betrayal was necessary, reasonable, or even your fault. This psychological mechanism is called cognitive dissonance. When someone's actions don't align with their values, instead of feeling guilt, they change the way they see the situation to protect their self-image. Take an unfaithful partner. Instead of admitting they were selfish, they tell themselves, "I wasn't happy. My needs weren't being met." If they really cared about me, I wouldn't have had to do this. Or consider a friend who betrays your trust. Maybe they spread rumors, sabotage you at work, or leave you behind when it's convenient. Instead of seeing it as a betrayal, they justify it with thoughts like, I had no choice. They would have done the same to me. It's just how life works. A study in behavioral psychology found that people are far more likely to justify immoral behavior if it benefits them directly. Instead of admitting they acted selfishly, they distort reality to fit their own interests. That's why you may never get an apology. That's why you may never get closure. Stoicism teaches us to let go of unrealistic expectations about human behavior. Epictetus said, when someone acts badly toward you, consider what must have led them to do so. Once you understand this, you will pity them rather than feel anger. The moment you realize that most betrayers don't see themselves as wrong, you free yourself from waiting for an apology that will never come. So, what do you do? First, stop expecting remorse from people who lack the capacity for it. Second, understand that how they see the situation doesn't change the truth. You were wronged, but you don't need their validation to move forward. Third, accept that some people will always rewrite history to protect their own conscience, and that is their weakness, not yours. The question is, are you still waiting for an apology that will never come? Or are you ready to move forward, knowing that their lack of guilt is not your burden to carry? Number 6, don't expect fairness. Life doesn't operate on ideal morality. Many people believe that if they do the right thing, life will reward them. They think that loyalty will be met with loyalty, kindness with kindness, and love with love. But the hard truth is, life is not fair, and people do not always operate on principles of justice. If you expect the world to follow a moral code, you will be disappointed again and again. Betrayal is part of the game of life, and if you don't accept this, you will always be blindsided. Take the story of Ethan and Olivia. They had been together for 6 years, building what Ethan thought was an unbreakable bond. He was loyal, supportive, and committed. He believed that because he gave Olivia his best, she would do the same. They planned a future together, talked about marriage, and Ethan felt confident that he had found the woman he would spend his life with. Then one night, everything changed. Olivia sat him down, her face expressionless, and said, "We need to talk." What followed was a cold, emotionless confession. She had been seeing someone else for the past 2 years. Not only that, but she had a child with this other man. Ethan felt like the ground beneath him had collapsed. 2 years? A child? How could she have looked him in the eyes every day and still betrayed him so completely? At first, he was in shock. Then came the anger. He wanted to know why. He wanted an explanation, something that would make sense of the chaos in his mind. But Olivia offered none. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She simply said, "It just happened. Life is complicated." That was it. No guilt, no regret, no sense of justice. Ethan had lived under the illusion that life was fair, that love worked like a transaction. He had been loyal, so he believed he was owed loyalty in return. But this was his mistake. The world doesn't work on fairness. People do what benefits them, not what aligns with some moral ideal. Olivia had made her choices based on her own desires, without concern for what was right or wrong. And the moment Ethan accepted this, he freed himself from the pain of betrayal. Stoicism teaches us that expecting fairness is a weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Ethan had no control over Olivia's actions, but he had control over how he responded. Instead of wasting years drowning in bitterness, he chose to see the truth. Betrayal is not personal. It is not about fairness. It is simply human nature. So, how do you protect yourself? First, stop assuming that loyalty guarantees loyalty. People act in their own self-interest, not according to what they owe you. Second, let go of the fantasy that life is fair. Justice is a human construct, not a universal law. Third, when you are betrayed, do not waste time demanding explanations. Accept reality and move forward. The question is, are you still expecting fairness from a world that doesn't operate on it? Or are you ready to accept reality and build strength from it? Number 7. People can say they are loyal, but their actions reveal the truth. Words are cheap. Anyone can say they are loyal, faithful, and trustworthy, but their actions tell the real story. Loyalty is not in what someone promises when things are easy. It's in what they do when their desires, interests, or circumstances change. A Stoic understands this truth and never blindly believes words alone. He observes, he analyzes, and most importantly, he waits. He knows that loyalty is not a declaration, but a pattern of behavior. The ability to separate what people say from what they do is one of the greatest strengths a man can develop. Take Daniel and Sophia. They had been together for years, and Sophia often reassured Daniel of her loyalty. She would say things like, "I could never hurt you, you are the only one for me, and I would never betray your trust." But despite her words, Daniel noticed inconsistencies. The way she was overly defensive when asked simple questions, the way she flirted subtly when she thought he wasn't looking, the way she seemed more concerned with how others perceived their relationship rather than the relationship itself. Daniel, unlike most men, did not live in denial. He did not cling to words for comfort. He trusted reality. Instead of confronting Sophia immediately, he observed. He saw how her behavior shifted in different environments, how she acted when she thought no one was watching, how she responded when she was tested. Eventually, the truth became undeniable. Sophia wasn't loyal. She only liked the image of loyalty. When Daniel finally confronted her, she denied everything at first, but as he laid out the pattern of her actions, she had no defense. Her own behavior had already revealed the truth. This is why a Stoic never allows words to blind him. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly, but if they refuse to listen, walk away. There is no point in reasoning with those who do not want the truth." A man who speaks of loyalty but acts otherwise is not someone to argue with. He is someone to walk away from. This principle applies beyond relationships. A business partner who tells you, "We're in this together," but consistently makes decisions that only benefit himself is not a partner. He is a liability. A friend who claims, "I always have your back," but disappears the moment things get difficult, was never your friend to begin with. People love to create an image of loyalty because it makes them look good, but only pressure, temptation, and time reveal who they truly are. So how do you protect yourself? First, never let words override actions. If someone constantly speaks of loyalty but their actions show otherwise, believe the actions. Second, observe patterns, not isolated incidents. Anyone can fake loyalty for a short time, but over weeks, months, and years, their true nature will always surface. Third, remain emotionally detached enough to see the truth. The biggest mistake people make is ignoring the signs because they want to believe in words rather than reality. A Stoic does not ignore what is in front of him. The question is, are you still trusting words, or have you trained yourself to see the truth? Number 8, betrayal is a reminder that no one but you is responsible for your life. Betrayal is painful, but it serves a purpose. It reminds you of the harsh truth that no one is coming to save you, no one owes you anything, and no one will carry you when things fall apart. The sooner you accept this, the stronger you become. You are the only one responsible for your life. Many people place their trust in others, partners, friends, business associates, believing that loyalty, support, and commitment are unbreakable. They assume that if they invest enough time, love, or effort, the other person will do the same. But then betrayal comes, and reality sets in. The person they counted on disappears. The loyalty they believed in was an illusion. The safety net they thought was there was never real. And suddenly, they are left standing alone. Take Michael's story. He had built a business from the ground up with his childhood friend, Ryan. They started together, struggled together, made sacrifices together. Michael trusted Ryan fully. He never imagined betrayal was even a possibility. But as the business grew, so did greed. One day, Michael walked into the office and discovered that Ryan had taken control of their finances, cut him out of key deals, and positioned himself as the sole owner. Everything they built together was now his. Michael was left with nothing. At first, he was consumed with rage. How could someone he trusted for years turn on him like this? But then, as the anger faded, a new understanding took its place. The betrayal wasn't just about Ryan's choices. It was about Michael's failure to protect himself. He had trusted blindly, assumed loyalty, and ignored the possibility that no one is immune to self-interest. This is why Stoicism teaches radical self-reliance. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This means that true security comes not from trusting others, but from becoming someone who does not need to rely on them. Betrayal is not a personal attack. It is a wake-up call. It forces you to take ownership of your decisions, your emotions, and your future. So what do you do? First, stop expecting anyone to take responsibility for your life. People may support you, but they are not obligated to carry you. Second, learn to protect yourself, financially, emotionally, and mentally. Never put yourself in a position where one person's betrayal can destroy you. Third, use betrayal as a tool for growth, not a reason for resentment. Anger won't change the past, but self-reliance will shape your future. The question is, are you still waiting for people to be what you wish they were? Or are you ready to take full control of your own life? Number 9. They betrayed you because they never had integrity to begin with. Not everyone who enters your life is worthy of your trust, your loyalty, or your emotional investment. Some people betray not because they changed, not because circumstances forced them to, but because they never had integrity to begin with. The betrayal wasn't a sudden act, it was simply the moment their true nature revealed itself. Many people make the mistake of believing that someone who was once close to them must have at some point been genuine. But the truth is, some people were never truly loyal. They were simply playing a role that benefited them. When the role no longer served them, they discarded it. Their betrayal was not a failure of character development. It was a confirmation of who they always were. Think of David and Chris. David had always been generous, trusting, and willing to help others. Chris was his longtime friend, someone David had supported financially, emotionally, and socially for years. When Chris struggled, David was there. When Chris needed opportunities, David provided them. Then one day, Chris betrayed him, taking advantage of David's generosity, stealing from him, and leaving without remorse. David was devastated, but the truth was this: Chris was never a true friend. He was an opportunist from the start. Stoicism teaches us that not everyone has the same moral compass. Some people lie easily, betray without guilt, and take advantage of those who believe in honor and loyalty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man should be upright, not kept upright." This means that true character is intrinsic. It does not depend on external conditions. If someone betrays you, it is not because you failed to be good to them. It is because they never had the integrity to remain loyal in the first place. So how do you deal with this? First, understand that betrayal is not always a result of change. Sometimes it is just the exposure of truth. Second, accept that not everyone deserves your time, emotions, or energy. The pain of betrayal comes from believing that someone was something they never truly were. When you recognize this, you stop mourning the loss of an illusion. Third, develop a mindset that values observation over assumption. Don't judge people by what they say or even what they do in easy times. Judge them by how they behave when there is nothing left for them to gain. The question is, are you still wasting energy grieving people who were never worthy? Or have you learned to see betrayal as a gift, a final lesson in who never deserved a place in your life to begin with? Number 10. How to protect yourself from betrayal. Betrayal is a part of life, but that doesn't mean you have to be caught off guard by it. A Stoic doesn't live in paranoia, but he also doesn't walk through life blindly, trusting everyone without question. The key to avoiding unnecessary pain isn't to close yourself off completely. It's to become more observant, more discerning, and more aware of the warning signs that others ignore. You cannot control whether someone chooses to betray you, but you can control how prepared you are when it happens. Number 1. Observe the early warning signs. Betrayal rarely happens overnight. Most people reveal who they are long before they actually turn against you. But the problem is, most people ignore the red flags. Watch for inconsistencies in behavior. Someone who once supported you but now seems distant. Someone who suddenly becomes secretive. Someone whose attitude shifts depending on what they can gain from you. Change in behavior is never random. It's always a signal of something deeper. 2. Don't believe words, only believe actions. Anyone can claim loyalty. Anyone can promise to never betray you. But words mean nothing without consistent action over time. A man who is truly loyal doesn't need to say it. He proves it through his choices. The friend who always shows up when you need him. Change in behavior is never random. It's always a signal of something deeper. 3. Don't believe words, only believe actions. Anyone can claim loyalty. Anyone can promise to never betray you. But words mean nothing without consistent action over time. A man who is truly loyal doesn't need to say it. He proves it through his choices. The friend who always shows up when you need him. the partner who remains consistent no matter the situation, the colleague who protects your interests even when you're not around. These are the people worth trusting. But the person who only talks about loyalty but acts in self-interest, their actions are the truth. Their words are just noise. 3. Distance yourself from people who only reach out when they need something. If someone only calls you when they need money, a favor, or support, they do not value you. They value what you provide. True relationships, whether friendships, romantic partnerships, or business connections, are built on mutual respect and support. If someone disappears when you have nothing to offer but suddenly reappears when they need you, they are not a true ally. They are a parasite. Protect yourself by setting boundaries. Learn to say no. If someone disappears the moment you stop giving, they were never meant to stay in your life to begin with. 4. Respect your intuition. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Your instincts exist for a reason. Most people who have been betrayed admit that deep down, they felt something was wrong long before it happened. Maybe they noticed their partner acting strangely, their friend avoiding eye contact, their colleague withholding information, but they dismissed it, choosing to believe in the best rather than trusting their gut. A Stoic does not let emotions override reality. If something feels wrong, investigate. If a person's energy shifts in a way that doesn't make sense, don't explain it away. Pay attention. It's better to be cautious and proven wrong than to be naive and blindsided. 5. Don't let betrayal make you bitter. Use it to become smarter, stronger, and more aware. The biggest mistake you can make after being betrayed is allowing it to turn you into someone filled with resentment. Some people react to betrayal by shutting down completely, refusing to trust anyone ever again, or worse, becoming just as dishonest and selfish as those who hurt them. This is weakness disguised as strength. True power comes from learning, adapting, and growing without losing yourself. Betrayal should sharpen your perception, not harden your heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is how you should approach betrayal. Let it fuel your wisdom, refine your ability to read people, and strengthen your self-reliance. Instead of becoming fearful, become more discerning. Instead of becoming resentful, become more strategic. Instead of becoming paranoid, become untouchable. The question is, will you allow betrayal to break you? Or will you use it to become the kind of person who cannot be fooled twice? Conclusion. Betrayal is predictable, and it's never about you. Betrayal is never a sudden event. It's a process, a series of warning signs, a gradual shift in behavior that reveals itself long before the final act. Those who betray you do not do so because you are unworthy, but because they are unable to control the darkness within themselves. Their greed, their insecurities, their fears, or their selfish desires overpower whatever sense of loyalty they once claimed to have. But here's the truth that most people fail to see. The right people will never betray you. A person who values integrity, who respects your presence in their life, who understands loyalty as a principle, not a convenience, will never see betrayal as an option. The ones who turn against you were never truly meant to stay. So when someone betrays you, do not grieve the loss. Understand that they were the ones who lost something valuable, not you. They have revealed their weakness, their lack of character, and their inability to stand by what is right. And while they will continue to repeat their patterns, burning bridges wherever they go, you will walk away sharper, wiser, and untouchable. The question is, will you let betrayal make you bitter, or will you use it as proof that you were always the one worth keeping?